Genesis chapter 4. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord I have brought forth a man." Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. But Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael, and Mehujael was the father of Methusael, and Methusael was the father of Lamech. Lamech married 2 women, one named Ada and the other Zillah. Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who play stringed instruments and pipes. Zillah also had a son, Tubal-Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, "Ada and Zillah, listen to me. Wives of Lamech, hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, "God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him." Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. Genesis chapter 5. This is the written account of Adam's family line. When God created mankind, he made them in the likeness of God. He created them male and female and blessed them, and he named them mankind when they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Adam lived a total of 930 years, and then he died. When Seth had lived 105 years, he became the father of Enosh. After he became the father of Enosh, Seth lived 807 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Seth lived a total of 912 years, and then he died. When Enosh had lived 90 years, he became the father of Kinan. After he became the father of Kinan, Enosh lived 815 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enosh lived a total of 905 years, and then he died. When Kinan had lived 70 years, he became the father of Mahalalel. After he became the father of Mahalalel, Kinan lived 840 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Kinan lived a total of 910 years, and then he died. When Mahalalel had lived 65 years, he became the father of Jared. After he became the father of Jared, Mahalalel lived 830 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Mahalalel lived a total of 895 years, and then he died. When Jared had lived 162 years, he became the father of Enoch. After he became the father of Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Jared lived a total of 962 years, and then he died. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away. When Methuselah had lived 187 years, he became the father of Lamech. After he became the father of Lamech, Methuselah lived 782 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Methuselah lived a total of 969 years, and then he died. When Lamech had lived 182 years, he had a son. He named him Noah, and said, "He will comfort us in the labor and painful toil of our hands, caused by the ground the Lord has cursed." After Noah was born, Lamech lived 595 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Lamech lived a total of 777 years, and then he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Genesis chapter 6. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, "I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them." But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on the earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark, and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I am going to bring flood waters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has the breath of life in it. Everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you, 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Genesis chapter 7. The Lord then said to Noah, Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made. And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and of all the creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the floodwaters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that very day, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that have the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in. For 40 days the flood kept coming on the earth. And as the waters increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 15 cubits. Every living thing that moved on land perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. People and animals and the creatures that move along the ground and the birds were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days.
Hey Bible readers, I'm Tara Lee Cobble, and I'm your host for the Bible Recap. Today we read about the first children, Cain and Abel. And speaking of children, if you have any nearby, you may want to preview this episode before sharing it with them. So just a heads up on that. Cain and Abel carried out the sin nature of their parents. The thing about being not God is that we're by nature less than perfect. Yesterday, when God finished creating, he declared it very good, and he blessed man. But being very good and being blessed are entirely different than being perfect and complete. There is zero chance that imperfect man would live up to God's standard of perfection, and we saw that played out today when Cain murdered his brother Abel. What's interesting to me in this passage is that this murder happened about 2,500 years before God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. But Cain still knew murder was wrong, even though it hadn't been written out on the tablets. Those stone tablets weren't necessary for mankind to know right from wrong. Cain even knew what justice required. He knew there would be a natural consequence for his actions, because in 4:14, he even feared other people killing him in response to him killing his brother. One of the things people often ask when they read this story is, where did Cain's wife come from? Because we see in 4:17 that he got married. Scripture points to all humanity having descended from Adam and Eve, so it doesn't seem like God created a bunch of other people independent of them. However, Scripture does tell us that Adam and Eve had lots of children after Cain and Abel, so it seems likely that Cain could have married one of his sisters or nieces. You're probably like, hold up, Tara Lee. I know, that's weird. This is the least of the weird things we're going to cover in Scripture. It's not even the weirdest thing we're going to cover today. But here's something interesting I found when I dug into this. The scientific reason incest is problematic and dangerous is because of the genetic load, which didn't exist back then. I don't think it's a stretch to assume that Adam and Eve didn't have any genetic mutations, but that those developed over generations. So it wouldn't necessarily have been dangerous at that point. It wasn't until much later that God banned incest, and up to that point, it seemed like it could have been the tool he used to populate the earth. By the way, this doesn't suggest that God has changed. It just shows us that he has an orderly plan. Here's another example of that. Yesterday, we saw that mankind started out as vegetarians, possibly even vegans. But tomorrow, we'll see where he tells people to eat meat. God is intentional about all these things. Only he would know at what point genetic mutations would be a problem for humanity, so only he would know when incest had served its purpose and crossed over into dangerous territory. Okay, I'm going to go into something a little weirder here, but hang in there. Genesis 6 has a lot going on, and I'm going to try to break down some heavy stuff in short, simple explanations. In 6:4, we see the term sons of God used. This is one way Scripture refers to angelic beings. This is an interesting section, and there are lots of theories on it, but the prevailing understanding among historic Jewish texts was that the term sons of God referred to fallen angels, which means that the sons of God, the fallen angels, took human wives and had children with them, creating this crossbreed of angels and humans. In this section of Scripture, they are referred to as the Nephilim. In Matthew 22 and Mark 12, we see that the fallen angels in heaven don't procreate, but that could potentially be for two reasons. First, the angels in heaven are referred to as elect angels who live within the bounds of God's rules and don't rebel against him. But second, Scripture seems to indicate that all angels are males. We never see a female angel in Scripture. So if they're all male, they can't procreate among themselves. But if they were to procreate with human females, then theoretically this kind of crossbreeding would be possible. If that's the case, then there's a strong chance that the fallen angels procreating with women corresponds to the increasing wickedness on the earth. Now, why would fallen angels want to do this? Here's a popular theory. If you were an angel who resided in heaven with God the Father and God the Son and God the Spirit, and you knew that the plan God had from before the creation of the earth was that someday God the Father was going to send God the Son to earth, born as a human named Jesus, who was conceived by God the Spirit, to redeem and restore everything, and then you rebelled against God and his kingdom, wouldn't you want to thwart that plan? Wouldn't you want to counterfeit it in an attempt to deceive people and defeat him? So it could be that the enemy was trying to corrupt the human bloodline to prevent the birth of the Messiah by counterfeiting the supernatural and natural union. It's possible. It's important that we hold all this with an open hand because we don't have enough info here. We don't want to scream where Scripture whispers. But if this did happen in the way the ancient Jews understood it, then God wiping out all this crossbreed population with the flood, which is about to happen, totally makes sense. He's wiping out the enemy's attempt to wipe out the Messiah's bloodline. And in this scenario, the only family whose bloodline hadn't been infiltrated by fallen angels was Noah's family. So God preserved them. You still with me? If all of that is really confusing, check out the description box for a link to more info on this. Or you can go to thebiblerecap.com/links to see all of our links for the whole year of reading. Now, regardless of what happened, we know that God has set apart this family, these particular descendants of Adam and Eve, as the family he's in relationship with. More on that in a second. Okay, a few tidbits about the ark that might help you picture the scale of this monstrosity. According to 615, it was 1.5 football fields long, the width of a 6-lane interstate, and as tall as a 4-story building. Noah was a pretty smart man, so he probably took the tiniest versions of all the animals, and we have way more breeds of animals these days, so I'm sure God knew what was the perfect size to hold whatever he needed it to hold. It probably didn't smell great, though. In 618, God makes a covenant with Noah. God is continuing to work through this one family of people. Before the floodwaters come, he tells Noah that this is only the beginning of their relationship. Noah is not going to die. Then, in 7:6, the flood occurs. If the timeline is aiming to be precise, the flood would have happened 1,656 years after Adam and Eve were created. We've covered a lot of ground in 6 chapters. You can see that Genesis is not really heavy on the details. That's an average of 276 years per chapter. That's like trying to summarize the history of America in 1 chapter. God leaves out lots of information. And that's okay, because our aim isn't to know everything. Our aim is to know God. Speaking of which, where did you see your God shot today? Where did you see God's character displayed? What picture of God was presented to you? Here's my God shot. In all we read today, I saw God's sovereignty on display. Nothing can thwart his will. Nothing can keep him from his plan to rescue the people he has entered into relationship with. The enemy's attempt to thwart the bloodline of Christ did not prevail. And even if you don't subscribe to that particular interpretation of Genesis 6, we see his sovereignty over weather and creation. He is at work in all things to restore fallen humanity in relationship with himself. And that's good news for all of us, because he's where the joy is. Reading the Bible every day is hard sometimes, but here you are. So if you want to make this process easier for yourself and help increase your chances of not dropping this new habit on the days when things are tough, the best way to do that is to subscribe. That way you don't have to go find us. We come to you. Free delivery. All you have to do is click subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow and every day after that.